Random House Audio presents Moondogs by Alexander Yates. Read for you by Paul Michael. Horatio. Oh, day and night, but this is wondrous strange. Hamlet. And therefore, as a stranger, give it welcome. Hamlet, Act 1, Scene 5. William Shakespeare. Hurley. Back home, I'm known as something of a warrior myself. All the best cowboys have daddy issues. Lost, Season 1, Episode 11. Javier Grillo Marxuach. Book 1. Departures. Chapter 1. Mr. Orange. A man and a rooster exit a taxi idling on a crowded street. The man is short and thin, and the rooster is green, and the rooster belongs to him. The taxi belongs to him as well. He's wearing a fresh shirt, the blood all washed out, and his polyester slacks shine a little in the afternoon light. He's too young to be balding, but is. His mouth is a rotten mess, owing to bad hygiene and a shabu habit. His name is Ignacio. He and the rooster are villains. Ignacio grips the open taxi door and stretches his legs. It feels good to be standing. The drive south from Manila should have taken only an hour, but he demanded that Little Boy, his idiot brother, make wrong turns so they'd be harder to follow. He'd barked instructions from the back seat, where he and Kellogg pored over a soggy map and planned intricate doublebacks. Kellogg is the rooster. He's named Kellogg because he's green with red and orange in his tail and a blood-red comb, like the rooster on the cereal. He used to be a fighting cock. He still would be, if not for the onset of blindness. He's retired now. Little Boy stays in the family taxi, drumming his fingers on the wheel and singing along to the Sex Bomb Girls on the radio. Little Boy loves the family taxi. He never minds picking up Ignacio's shifts, and people tip him better because he's a safer driver and doesn't look so scary. He looks big and soft. When the song ends, he leans out the window and calls over to his brother. "Is this it, Iggy? Are we there yet?" "Not so loud, dummy," Ignacio shouts. "What did I tell you?" Little Boy looks embarrassed and squints. He hadn't been loud at all. Ignacio holds Kellogg tight and releases the open taxi door like a mother's hand. He steps into the after-lunch foot traffic, searches out a number above the shops, and checks it with the address he'd written on his palm the night before. They're in the right spot, or close to it at least. They'll walk the final distance on side streets, just to be safe. "Go park the car," Ignacio says. "I'll make sure we're alone." "Be careful," Little Boy says, thumbing the scented Virgin Mother statuette on the dashboard. Ignacio watches him courteously re-enter the slow-moving traffic and then signal. Who signals? At the intersection ahead. He again thinks that maybe his brother isn't up to today's challenge, on a whole bunch of levels. Maybe he's too soft-hearted, or maybe he doesn't have sense enough to know he should be scared. Ignacio sure has sense enough. He's terrified. He appreciates the seriousness of the shit he's starting. Ignacio shifts Kellogg to his other arm, leans against the concrete wall of a store selling toilets and bathtubs, and tries his utmost to look nonchalant. He scans the noisy street, all bathed in sweat from an unusually hot mid-May, even for the Philippines. Power lines sag dangerously low over speeding buses and jeepneys. Women hawk cool juice and duck eggs from tin kiosks, while men in a repair shop fold up their shirts to air out their guts. 2 children chase a scalded cat down the sidewalk, but they get distracted by Kellogg, and the cat escapes. "Is that a fighting cock, mister?" they ask. Kellogg eyes the general area of the children with hungry disdain, and Ignacio tells them to beat it. "Who are you talking to, pussy?" the smaller one says in a high, lovely voice. "This isn't your neighborhood, Manileño." The boys goose their crotches, spit near his shoes, and run down the gravel sidewalk laughing. Ignacio presses himself into the shop wall and watches them go. He knows he looks out of place, but he's on the lookout for people even more out of place, scanning the street for the Americans that he's sure are following him. Men in suits, ill-suited to the climate, peering out from behind menus in the karaoke bar and the buko pie shop. Pale men, or maybe black men, with sunglasses on their eyes and wireless earpiece things in their ears. Blonde, freckled athlete virgins hiding in the lengthening shadows of stop signs, ready to pounce, ready to pull him into an SUV with diplomatic plates and tinted windows and take him somewhere dark and dress him in something bright and deprive him of sleep, ready to drag him screaming to ocean-distant rooms of electrified genitals and nudity near dogs, ready to lock him up with the real hardcore types at Guantanamo Bay, ready to laugh and eat pastries as they watch him get ass-raped through one-way glass. He's afraid of those Guantanamo types, his maybe future cellmates, the most. He isn't hardcore, and they'll know it in a second. "How far is the mosque from here?" Little boy's voice startles him so much that he drops Kellogg, whose fighting spur, attached today for the first time in years, makes an ugly noise against the gravel. "Idiot," Ignacio says as he reaches down to recover Kellogg and coo to him. "Don't say that. Keep your mouth shut." Little boy shuts his mouth and breathes through his whistling nostrils. He takes obvious glances over each shoulder and then puts on what he must think is a non-conspiratorial expression. He looks like he's trying to pass something so big it hurts a little. He makes Ignacio sick. "Come on," he says. "Walk behind me, and don't say anything to anybody." Without another word, they make their way along the street. Ignacio slips down the first pedestrian alley they come to and walks the labyrinthine footpaths in the general direction of their destination, the Blue Mosque. He's not happy to be getting so many curious glances from passers-by, and his hands shake, his long nails scraping audibly on his cheap slacks. The paranoia and the shabu have kept him awake for days now. The bags under his eyes are swollen so dark it looks like he's weeping tar. People avoid him in the narrow corridors between shanty walls, sometimes stepping in sewage to do so, as though they're afraid what he's got might be catching. When they pass Little Boy, dutifully a few steps behind, they've got no choice but to keep hugging the walls. He's almost as big across as Ignacio is tall, his head large as a breadfruit. He's got to duck every few steps to avoid do-it-yourself power lines, stolen cable, and jagged aluminum siding. But of the three of them, Kellogg by far gets the most attention. Ignacio expected this. Bringing him along is a calculated risk. He's conspicuous, but if shit goes down, he'll be needed for protection. Even in retirement, he's an impressive bird. His comb stands erect as a crown, the plume of his tail is thick, and his talons are solid as a fat kid's fingers. Back in his heyday, he put larger opponents away in the first round, leaving them open and disgorged like fancy unpacked handbags on the arena floor. He has 33 wins to his name, which may as well be 33,000, considering the lifespan of your average working gamecock. If he hadn't started going blind, he'd still be at it, and Ignacio would still be spending his earnings unwisely, and he wouldn't be doing something as dumb and risky as this. The alleys widen as the villains get farther from the main road. Palms compete with makeshift antennas for canopy space, each a perch for sooty pigeons and wild sparrows, still dyed red and green from the holidays. Shanty windows breathe talk radio in the heat, their corrugated roofs shimmering like skillets. The squat buildings seem more solid out here, built of concrete masonry blocks and insulated with mortar and foam. Some have fenced-in gardens, sunny resting places for chained dogs or old men chained by gravity to rattan lounge chairs. The old men heckle passers-by as though it's charming. "Hey," one of them says, noticing the spur fastened to Kellogg's foot. "You're going the wrong way, pal. The arena is that way." He points. Ignacio quickens his pace. He can see a blue-capped minaret ahead, and it's all he can do to keep from gawking. The alley opens further, and they come abruptly to a white outer wall with a sprawling low dome beyond. The area around the mosque is quiet, save for a pair of shirtless teenagers in black and white crocheted caps playing basketball on the pounded dirt. The one with the ball freezes mid-pivot to look at the strangers, and then, as though he's deemed them boring, shoots against the plywood back.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?